Thank you guys for being here. I'm really excited to cook with you all. Please ask questions throughout. They don't bug me. I'm super used to them. I do small classes like this just through my website. Usually it's a max of about 12 people. So this is my first time with a lot of people, but we're gonna do it, and it'll be really fun. And you can just ask me anything, basically. I want this to be helpful and easy for you. If you are struggling today, maybe you have, maybe you're dealing with some head pain or dizziness or anything like that, I recommend bringing over a stool. I've got mine today just in case I need it, so I can rely on it. But don't feel like you have to stand this whole time with me. Take breaks. It's easy to chop on your stool, so that tends to help if you're not feeling very well. But one thing I like to do to make cooking really fun is to start off with a fun drink. So usually that's a fun mocktail that we can kind of throw together pretty easily without a lot of work. So today we're going to be making a pear no-jito, which is kind of like a mojito with a little bit of pear juice. If you couldn't find pear juice you can usually find, I find it at most grocery stores, like in the juice area, especially like specialty health stores like Whole Foods will have it, that kind of thing. But I know that, not everyone has access to stores like that. So pomegranate juice is a really good sub. Tart cherry juice would be great in this as well. And it will have the flavors of ginger and mint kind of muddled with those juices. And then we're going to top it off with a little bit of sparkling water, which I'm going to grab right now. So let's start this off. This makes it kind of relaxing. We're going to have fun with it. It gets us in the mood for cooking, makes it more of a mindful activity. So let's start. You should have some fresh mint. It actually snowed today in Dallas, so I had to grab this really quick before it all died. But we're gonna just peel off a few fresh mint leaves and put them in the bottom of our fun glass. A wine glass will work. Any type of glass that makes you feel super fancy. Go ahead and grab that. Pick off about 6 leaves or so of this fresh mint. And then you should also have your fresh ginger out. So I have mine here. We're going to actually use this later for our healthy egg roll bowls, but I'll show you an easy way. So I think a lot of us, how do we peel this ginger? It's got this thick layer on the outside. A lot of us will just use our knives and kind of cut off the sides, which is totally okay. You can do that if that's easier for you. But a tip I like to give people in my cooking class is actually to use a spoon, and this will save your fingers, especially if you're dizzy or going through an attack or something like that. If you can scrape off the skin, it will help to actually conserve some of that ginger, and it saves your fingers in case you have a slip or something like that. And you can see it just comes right off the side of that ginger without making a lot of waste or anything like that. So we're just going to peel that ginger to kind of get the inside of it before we chop it or slice it into smaller pieces for our mocktail. So sort of like peeling it like a potato or something like that. Just a really easy way to go. A lot of people ask me how to store ginger, and I usually recommend to do it the same way your grocery store does. So I will usually store mine out, kind of next to garlic or whatever, just on my counter. But you can also wrap it and put it in the fridge, depending on how quickly you use it and go through it. It's the same with herbs. You can, one thing I like to do with herbs, except for basil, which is really sensitive to cold, but I'll show you what I like to do with herbs to kind of store them and keep them for a while. This is parsley I've had in my fridge for about 2 weeks, and you just keep it in a glass of water in the fridge on the side of your door, and it'll keep for quite a while. Huh? Oh, I didn't hear that. Anyway, so you can keep that on your herbs like cilantro and parsley will do really well like that in the fridge. I'm just gonna take my knife and slice just some thin pieces of ginger. So let's do about 4 pieces. Put those in the bottom of your glass as well.
Alicia, Marina has a question.
Yes.
Actually, Liam has a question.
No.
Okay.
Liam wants to know if you have a name for your baby yet.
I do have a name for my baby. His name is George.
George.
George. It's actually a family name, so that'll be. My husband was very adamant about George, but that's okay because there are lots of good Georges in this world, and we all like George Clooney, don't we? So
yes, we do. Just ask my husband; he's right here.
Yeah. So we've got our fresh ginger, our mint in there. I'm gonna take about 2 ounces. You can use a little jigger like this, or you can just measure it. I'm gonna do about 2 ounces of pear juice or pomegranate juice. Put that in your bottom of your glass. And then if you have a muddler like this would work great. It's got these little spikes at the bottom to kind of break up like fruit and the ginger and kind of mash it all together. But you can also use, if you don't have this, just use like a wooden spoon like this, the edge of a wooden spoon, and kind of mash everything down in there. And that'll help combine the flavors. So we've got our ginger, our pear juice all in there. We're just gonna kind of release those flavors all together by mashing it. And then let's go get our ice. Oh, ginger got stuck in there a little bit. We'll get an ice. If you have like a fancy ice cube, that'll work. I like to keep these little fun ice cubes in here for like fun mocktails and stuff like that. I'm just gonna add one of those cubes in there. But you know, regular ice works too. You don't need to have a fancy one. It's quite all right. And then I'm using Topo Chico because I love Topo Chico sparkling water. I think it's like the most fizzy sparkling water. But really any plain.
Where can you buy that, Alicia? I looked for
Topo Chico. Okay, so I think it must be like a Texas thing because it's like everywhere here in Texas. So you can get it at Central Market, at Whole Foods. They have it at Costco here in bulk. I'm not sure how widely available it is across the country. I know like sometimes when I visit my in-laws in Arizona, we can only find it at like specialty stores like AJ's. So I don't know if it's a Southern thing, but like you could also use Pellegrino, or I don't know, what are some of the other ones that are like basically any Perrier would work. Any plain sparkling water would work for this. So I'm just gonna top off the rest of my drink with this and then give it a little mix one more time to combine everything. And there you go, you got your pear no-jito. Got a little mint. But there we go, we got this to start off the class. If you want it to be a little bit sweeter, I recommend adding some agave syrup to it. Or if you like more ginger, feel free to add more ginger. If you want more mint, feel free to add more mint. But this is kind of a good base to start with, and then you can kind of take it wherever you want. Just something really simple and healthy to kind of start off with. And then if, alcohol doesn't bother you, if you can tolerate vodka really well, just add a little bit of a splash to it, and that makes cooking a lot more fun some days. So we will
Cheers, everyone.
move on. Does everyone have their mocktails done? If so, we can move on. And we will start next with our egg roll bowls. I really like this recipe because it's easy to meal prep. Like, we're not going to eat for another 2 hours or so, so I'll probably stick it back in the fridge for a little while. So it's one of those recipes that you can like double or triple and make for the rest of the week, and keep it, in different storage containers, have it ready on hand for whenever you need it. It's really easy to customize to be gluten-free, especially like, I haven't been able to find egg roll wrappers that are gluten-free, but like if you could do, like you can do like corn tortillas or just something like that for the extra crunch on top, or just totally leave them out. Also, this recipe you can make completely vegetarian, or I guess it would actually be vegan if you got rid of the ground pork. If you can tolerate soy, I know some people that's tricky for people on a migraine diet, but if you can tolerate some soy like tofu, that would be great in here. Or just add a bunch of different vegetables along with it, like carrots and broccoli and that sort of thing, and just make it kind of into a big stir fry on top of rice. That would be fantastic too. So I'll just kind of give you the basic level of how to do everything, and then you can kind of customize it to whatever you need. We'll start. So you want to start off by heating your oven. If you are making the crispy wonton topping, which is really fun for dipping and stuff like that, you want to start by preheating your oven to 400. I also have a large saute pan that I'm going to use. This is just a green pan of mine. It's nonstick and everything like that. So if you can get that out and get those ready, we will start preparing some of the things that we need to chop for this dish, as well as our crispy wonton. So while your oven is heating, let's go ahead and get started chopping everything that we need to make for this recipe. And I'll kind of give you some tips for chopping, especially when you're managing migraine or dizziness or anything like that. So we already have our ginger out and peeled, basically. So you're going to need 2 teaspoons of this fresh ginger. You can also use dried if you don't want to mess around with it. That's totally fine too. A good rule of thumb is to take the half of any fresh herb, and that's the amount that you would use for dried. So if a recipe calls for like 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme, you would just use 1 teaspoon of dried. Same for this, 2 teaspoons of fresh ginger, you would use 1 teaspoon of dried. So that might make life a little bit easier for you. Chopping skills. Let's go over this. I go over this in every class, and I feel like there's always a few people it helps. But most of us are holding our knives wrong when we're in the kitchen. And this can also be tricky if you are dealing with migraine, dizziness, or pain, or anything that is affecting your vision and making it really hard to cook. A lot of us hold our knives like this, right? And this is not a good way to hold a knife because you don't have a lot of security when you go to chop. Like, look how loose my knife is. I can just, cut all my fingers off, right? We don't want to do that. So the best way to hold your knife, and how you're supposed to hold your knife, is actually to curl your fingers up near the top. So your thumb and your forefinger are going to actually wrap themselves on the blade, and the rest of your fingers are going to come around and hold the handle. So this is a very secure hold when you go to chop. So you have a lot more control over the knife and what you're cooking. This will also help you chop much faster when you're cooking as well. So I think you can like see a difference as you're doing this. I mean, let me know if you're not, but overall, usually when people do this in my classes, they're like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't done that before. And it does make a big difference. Also, you can kind of tell I'm holding one end of my knife just to kind of dice this, get it minced as I run my knife through it into really small pieces. I've also seen people use their garlic press to press ginger. I find I kind of waste a lot of ginger that way, but if you have a really good, strong garlic press, you can do that as well. It smells amazing. So we have 2 teaspoons of fresh ginger that we're gonna kind of set aside here. And we have 3 garlic cloves that we're gonna use for this recipe. So if you've never, like, there's all kinds of gadgets you can use to peel garlic. There's like a sleeve that you can use and just roll it. Like if you have to peel like a lot of garlic, say you're making like chicken with 40 cloves of garlic or something like that. So that's a great device to roll and it gets the skins right off. Usually I'll just start by peeling or chopping off the end of my ginger, getting rid of that. And then I like the smash technique where you just smash it and the skin comes right off that way. It also is a great way to relieve some stress, right? Just be careful with your knife, but we're gonna do the same thing. I kind of run it through once just to get some thin slices before I start to mince it. And you can also use a garlic press for this. Actually, another tip that, you know, is very helpful if you are experiencing an attack, what I would do is I would just put the whole garlic clove into your press and press it that way. You can leave the skin on and everything. Garlic cloves or garlic presses are actually meant to be used that way. So you don't have to peel it before you press it through the garlic press at all. And that'll save you some time. I do find it's a little bit harder to clean. So sometimes I still like to peel it before I put it through my garlic press, but overall.
Alicia?
Yeah, if you're, yes.
Can we combine the garlic and the ginger?
Yes, so
like I already have the ginger in here. Can I just throw the garlic clove in? Is it okay to combine it all?
You can definitely combine them all because they're going to go in at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So that's really what we need to chop. I guess we can start on our green onion too, or scallions, green onion. These are typically, you know, especially if you're doing like a migraine elimination diet, these are definitely allowed on that diet. A lot of people find they tolerate them better than regular onions, so I tend to cook with them a lot, but they're just really great for any Asian inspired cooking that you're gonna do. And so we're just gonna kind of slice these into smaller pieces, probably about, I don't know, 1/4 inch. You can just run your knife quickly through those just to have them ready to go. And I think that's at the end of our chopping. You should have ready something that's already done for you, which is a coleslaw mix. So cabbage, mixture of cabbage, carrots, everything like that. This will just make your life super easy. Obviously, you can buy a whole cabbage and slice it if you want to, but you can get these at most grocery stores. Just dump out if they come out with a dressing in them, just dump that out. But that's all. So we're done chopping. See how easy that is? That's amazing, right? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna prep our wonton. If you're gonna use the wonton like as a topping, a chip topping or a dip, I have a few prepared here because I was worried that I would get distracted talking to you all, which is a very real possibility, but these burn super easily. Never fails that like you get distracted talking and you know, it just goes the opposite end. So I wanted a few already done to kind of show you guys. So I cut these, I have a few here that I cut into like smaller little strips and baked before our class. So you could do it in strips like this. They crisp up real nice in the oven. You can just break them. They're fun for kids to chew on or snack on. And you can have those I'll show you how to cut them in small strips. Or if you wanted to make this into like an egg roll bowl where you could kind of put some on a cracker and eat it that way, you can do bigger chips like this. Both ways will work. But we're going to start off with this just defrosted egg roll wrapper. You kind of, mine's a little bit dry. You don't want these to dry out basically, but you can keep it under a wet paper towel, which is what I should have done as you're working, if you're not working quickly with it. But just take a defrosted egg roll wrapper like this, and then a little bit of oil. So I just have regular vegetable oil that I'm using here. Avocado oil, olive oil will work. And I'm just kind of brushing that on the top of both sides. And that'll just kind of help it get brown and crispy. I do have a little bit of parchment paper on my baking sheet just so it doesn't stick to the baking sheet. But if you have like a non-stick baking sheet, that will work too. And just kind of
Alicia, I think there's someone that wants a question. If you want to, you can unmute yourself if you have a question.
Alicia,
Hi.
I have spring roll wrappers
Okay.
I've been bought, and I have flour tortillas.
Oh, either one will work.
The spring roll wrappers, they're like really thin ones that they like if you put them in the water, they become really really thin. I don't think they can.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think those will work.
So you're
Right?
rice paper.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, use the flour tortillas. Those are rice paper wrappers and they will not work for this. Actually, let me go show you what I'm using just so you guys know. For a heads up, you usually find them in the freezer, like ethnic section. They're usually with like wonton wrappers and stuff like that. And mine look like this. And they come in this big package. And you can see I covered mine in with the wet paper towel in here so it doesn't dry out. But that's kind of what you want for this. But if you're using tortillas, do the same thing. Brush it with the oil on both sides. And if you want to, you can cut it into thin strips like I did. I would do that now. Or you can cut it into the 4 big pieces. So let me do that. Yeah, sure. That was a good question. I'm just going to cut mine into the 4 little sections like this and pop that into the 400-degree oven. You can do this middle rack for about 5 minutes. Just kind of check them. They should get nice and brown and crisp up. But again, just make sure you're checking it. I mean, we'll see if I remember to do that during this class. That's super refreshing. Okay, so we're pretty much all prepped. And we're gonna start by browning our meat. So I'm gonna take you guys over to where I'm gonna cook. Just a fair warning. Actually, before we do that, let's do one more thing. Let's prepare our sauce that we're gonna have. So I have half a cup of vegetable broth right here. I'm gonna add this with my coconut aminos. So coconut aminos are really great soy sauce substitute, especially for people. They tend to be lower in sodium. So sodium's an issue. Like sometimes in my vestibular community, a lot of people are really sensitive to sodium. I know sometimes it can be helpful for migraine, but if you're sensitive to sodium, it can be a good alternative. It's not made from coconut. A lot of people think it'll have coconut flavor. It doesn't. It's made from the sap of a coconut blossom, actually. So some brands are fermented, which can be kind of tricky for people with migraine. There are brands that are not fermented out there. You just kind of have to read on the labels and check. I find that people, even with the fermented brands, like people in general tend to tolerate these super well, as opposed to soy sauce, which can be really high in glutamate. So if you're like sensitive to MSG or anything like that, it can kind of be a trigger for some people. So coconut aminos tend to be a really good substitute for soy sauce. They are a little sweet, so you have to work to balance that out with other flavors. Like this is why I use toasted sesame oil to kind of give that depth of the flavor that you're missing from soy sauce, that you're basically missing from added glutamate. That's what kind of gives you that super flavor, like they call it umami flavor, that really deep flavor. So you kind of have to add a few other spices, like up your ginger, up your garlic, that sort of thing.
So Alicia,
when you're cooking for migraine. Yeah.
Alicia, if people didn't find that, they could use soy sauce if it doesn't bother them.
Yeah, if it doesn't bother you, go ahead and use soy sauce. You may just want to watch this added sodium that you're going to add to this recipe.
I think if there's a question, I think we had a question from the audience. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you wanted to ask it, unless it was answered. I think Rihanna, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You good? Okay.
And I got my my coconut aminos at Trader Joe's, and it's not fermented.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I love Trader Joe's. They're actually I think they have the cheapest coconut aminos. Sometimes coconut aminos can get outrageously expensive, so shop around for them. Like Trader's has a great deal on them. That's the one I'm using today, actually. Yeah, that's the one I'm using today. It just depends. But we're going to use 1/3 cup of this, and I'm actually adding this to 1/2 cup of vegetable broth. You can use chicken broth too. That'll work as well. I like to make my own broth, just because it does, again, you can control the sodium. It does make it more migraine friendly. I have a really hard time finding a store-bought broth that doesn't have MSG actually added to it. So if, again, something to note, if you're really sensitive to MSG, usually you would have to go with like a vegetable broth, but some people are sensitive to onions, and every store-bought vegetable broth has onions. So that's kind of when making your own comes in handy. It also tastes a lot better. It's lower in sodium. So I highly recommend it. I have a recipe online on my website and also in my cookbook, and I just use my Instant Pot to make those. So again, if you're using store-bought, that's totally fine if it doesn't bother you. Just something to note for the future. Especially if you're following an elimination diet, or if you're super sensitive to those kind of things like glutamate. So we're going to add the coconut aminos to our broth, and then
one more question. It looks like I think Nicole maybe had one, and and then we have another one coming in from chat. So Nicole, if you want to unmute. And Alicia,
Yeah.
when you make your homemade, I'm assuming you make a pretty big batch and then you store it in the refrigerator and use it as needed, correct?
Yes, I'll usually half it and put half of it in the fridge and half of it in the freezer. So
Oh.
I just have 5 minutes on these and they're not even brown. So I'm gonna stick them in just a little bit longer, but just, this is kind of what they look like. They start to puff up a little bit. So we're gonna put these in for another 2 or 3 minutes.
So the one question that came in on the chat, if you don't have coconut aminos due to an allergy or soy sauce, can you just use sesame oil and some spices, realizing the flavor will not be the same, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, I would leave it out for now, but actually I have a recipe on this particular recipe on my website. So it's under healthy egg roll bowls on the dizzycook.com. There's a recipe that combines broth with molasses actually, and a few other things to kind of give you an imitation soy sauce. So I would recommend looking into that after our class and seeing if you could substitute that, because it will definitely be missing some flavor without it. But for right now, just leave it out. It's fine. Just maybe add a little bit more broth. That would be great.
Great, good idea. We had one
Yeah.
more, I think. Nicole, are you good? Did you have a question, Nicole? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Thanks. Hey, Alicia. Hi. Hey.
Hi.
Hi. I forget. Oh, sorry. My dogs are barking. I forget what it is in broth that could be the trigger. Is it the autolyzed yeast extract?
Yes. So autolyzed yeast extract is another like hidden name for MSG. Sometimes you'll see like natural chicken flavor. That's another hidden name for MSG. You know, a lot of these companies, they try to sneak it in any way they can. And especially for people who are, it may not always mean the actual like chemical form of like MSG. It may just be something that's like natural glutamate. And so that's kind of why I say like different names for it and everything. It's just different types of forms or the way it's processed that can turn into that high glutamate item that can kind of trigger us. We all tend to be a little more sensitive to it, I think. So that's something to watch for just on your broths and stocks and anything like that, especially if you're using them often in cooking and you're finding you're constantly triggered, like something I would definitely look into. But making your own in the Instant Pot takes about, like literally 3 to 5 minutes hands-on time. You can literally put chicken, I will store like frozen chicken, like after I'll peel a whole roasted chicken for lunches and stuff like that. I'll store the carcass of it in my freezer. And just as I need to, I'll take it out for broth, throw that in the Instant Pot with some herbs like rosemary and thyme, as well as some carrots and shallots and celery. And it makes like the most delicious broth after 40 minutes in the pressure cooker. You can also completely leave out the chicken bones and just make it into a vegetable broth. And that works out great too.
And Alicia, if you didn't have an Instant Pot, you can certainly just put it on your stove in a saucepan, correct? Right?
Yeah. It just takes a little bit longer to cook. Like that would take a few hours to kind of build up that flavor. So instead of taking, 30 to 40 minutes, I would leave it in there for like to simmer about 4 to 6 hours. So I have different ways you can make it on my website and in my cookbook, including in a slow cooker or anything like that, which would also take a little bit longer, but you have alternatives if you don't have an Instant Pot. And this is kind of what your wonton chips should look like, just nicely browned like this. So we're going to set those aside and get to cooking with our meat.
Alicia,
Yes.
this is a perfect time for the first break for the raffle. So our first raffle is going to be a Miles for Migraine t-shirt. And so it's going to be to someone that has purple on. Is anyone wearing purple today? Purple, whoever raises their hand first. Yes, someone has purple. Helen, did you see?
Nancy's wearing purple.
Nancy? Oh, right
It
there,
looks like,
Nancy.
it looks like we have Dina and Blue both wearing purple.
Okay.
I see those two.
Did Michelle, did you raise your hand too? No? Okay. All right, Nancy and Michelle, we will send you t-shirts. Yeah, hey, you'll get some Miles for Migraine t-shirts. So thank you very much, Alicia. Go. It's back to you.
Go right ahead. Okay. So finally to our coconut aminos and broth, we're going to add a teaspoon and a half of toasted sesame oil. So that'll kind of give us a depth of flavor. It's really, really good. I love to add this to any like Asian inspired dishes. Just really fantastic. You can also, this can cook at a pretty high heat. So I actually just used olive oil, but you can use toasted sesame oil before we add our, chicken or pork. And I'm gonna move you guys over to, I saw a question that, let's just close our eyes in case this triggers anyone. So I'm gonna move you guys over for right now and then go over my questions. Okay, great. So you can kind of see my pan. I have about a pound of ground pork here, but you can also use chicken. I like to use ground chicken thighs actually, because I find them to be a lot more flavorful than chicken breast. But again, ground chicken breast, ground turkey would work here. Whatever works for you. I have a little bit of my oil. I saw a question, is regular sesame oil okay? And I would say not for this recipe. Like you really need that toasted flavor. I don't know why I'm seeing two of myself. Oh well. You really need that toasted sesame flavor for this particular dish to make it really good. But again, that's all you have on hand right now. Just go ahead and use it. It just won't be the same flavor. And you can find that. Oh, go ahead.
Can you review? It looks like we had someone just wanted a refresher on the tortillas. I know you said you can't walk away from them, but what temperature did you have?
I have them at 400.
Okay. And then don't walk away, watch them. So for a time frame?
Yeah, I put mine in for 5 minutes initially and they weren't done. So I added another 2 to 3 minutes. But if you are using smaller tortillas, I keep an eye on them after like 3 to 4 minutes and kind of check. And you may need to flip them as well.
Thanks.
Sure. So I'm just adding my ground pork here and letting that saute. And this is a good time for like any more questions. This will just kind of take about 5 minutes to cook. I have mine on medium high heat.
I think my question,
kind of breaking it up.
My question I had that I think we all ask is, could we tune in every evening and have you walk us through exactly how we can cook it?
I would love that. Every once in a while, I'll do weekend. Usually on weekends, I get a lot of people like to cook. So I'll do the weekend cooking classes. Like we just did one on the Instant Pot. I think I'll probably schedule one more just teaching people how to use an Instant Pot, because I think there's a lot of fears there and it's really helpful for people with migraine. It makes life super easy. It's great for meal prep. It's great for those stocks and broths that I was talking about. So
my Instant Pot scares me.
Yeah, so that's what everyone says. So
My husband uses it.
Where's your schedule for that? I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way in terms of being intimidated by an Instapot. You offer those through your website, thedizzycook.com?
Yeah, it's actually through the dizzycookshop.com. And just as I haven't been so great about scheduling just because we weren't sure when baby would come, but I'll probably add another one maybe this next weekend, another Instant Pot class. So if people are interested in that, just keep an eye on it there. And then if you're signed up for my email list on the dizzycook.com or watch my Facebook or anything like that, I'll post before I have the class available. They are limited because people can talk and ask questions throughout. So I usually limit the class to about 10 to 12 people. So just, if you see it, go ahead and sign up. That's the best way to kind of secure your spot because they usually do always sell out. But I usually put it on my social channels and everything like that. So if you're following me somehow, like, you should hopefully see it, either on social or through my email list too, or just keep checking the dizzycookshop.com. So this is nicely browning. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this just to kind of season it. And I'm using kosher salt. This is what most people will use in cooking. And I'll kind of explain a little bit about kosher salt really quick. There are different types of kosher salt, actually. So when you're going into the grocery store, I think the most popular is probably the Morton's brand of kosher salt. That's the one that's like most widely found. And you know, a lot of people will say, oh, this recipe uses too much salt. I see it a lot with like Ina Garten recipes. People complain about her using too much salt and stuff like that. And actually, there's a difference between Diamond brand kosher salt and Morton's kosher salt. So Diamond brand is actually like really fine crystals of kosher salt, and you can use more of it to salt dishes. So if you ever are finding, you know, a particular blogger or cookbook, it seems like the recipes are super salty, definitely check into that. Like for my cookbook, I personally use the Diamond brand kosher salt, and I kind of make a note of that in the cookbook, but I'm not sure how many people read it. I know Chrissy Teigen does the same thing in her cookbooks too. I think people just kind of glaze over that. But just take note that there's a difference in saltiness, even with different kinds of kosher salt. So I'm just adding about, oh yes, go ahead.
Why kosher versus like, you know, sea salt?
Sea salt, you could definitely use sea salt as well. Again, it just has to do with the amount of saltiness that will come through in different recipes. So you just don't want to use a lot of it interchangeably, like especially if a blogger or a cookbook specifies a certain type of salt, like you know, even like table salt, that's usually like the iodized salt that isn't like the super fine crystals. That tends to be way more salty than, and you're having like a lot of volume of it versus a kosher salt. So just be careful using those interchangeably when you're cooking. Something to note, as it will definitely change the flavor of your dish. So we're almost done here.
And speaking of Alicia's cookbook, that what she was saying with her salt, I have her cookbook right here actually. And if you get it, I read it from the cover to cover. So, you know, not only the recipes that she has, but the advice she gives in it, like the salt, is so important. So,
yeah, just little tips.
Yeah, it's a great cookbook, but great tips in it as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll give you another little tip, lazy man's tip over here, right? So this is really heavy for me. I don't feel like going up and picking it up and taking it over to my sink to drain it, right? You may have some extra moisture in there. So this is my lazy man's tip, and I'm sure it's not very professional, but I stick a paper towel in here and just kind of soak up some of that extra oil and moisture from, you know, your chicken or your beef or whatever that you're using for this. For me, it's pork. And that's how I kind of do it, instead of having to pick it up and drain it and, you know, worry about spilling it everywhere. And then I just toss this out. And it's that easy. So don't judge me.
Best tip ever. I love that. Thank you.
So, okay, so we've got that all, our meat is brown. Your meat should be brown too. I'm gonna come over here and bring over my garlic and ginger that's been minced. We're just kind of gonna add that to our pan here with the meat. Okay, we still have it on medium heat. And we're gonna give that a little bit of time to kind of release those flavors, mix that in here. Get nice and fragrant for about a minute. Let's go a minute or two. Kind of mix that together. If anyone has a question too right now, I can answer that while we're waiting for this to kind of cook a little bit.
Your doggy's name?
Oh, this is Coco. she is the vacuum cleaner of the kitchen.
It's very cute.
Highly recommend getting yourself a dog. It keeps you from picking up anything in your kitchen. And then you can also bring over your mixture of the broth with the coconut aminos and everything like that, as well as we are going to bring over our cabbage. Let me open this really quick. So you are going to use a 9-ounce, let me see if this is 9 ounces. This seems like more. Oh, this is 12 ounces. So you should, I'm not going to use quite all of this. You really want 9 ounces of your shredded coleslaw mix. Different bags come in different ounces, so just double check your label. Recipe calls for 9 ounces, but you can just add this right in there with the meat.
Alicia, we had a question. Are we done with the oven since the strips are done? Should we turn our ovens off?
Yes, you can turn your ovens off after your strips are done. Good question. Let's not waste energy, right? Okay, so I still have my heat over medium heat. I'm just going to mix this cabbage in with my ground pork here. And that'll start to wilt down a little bit, especially when we add our broth mixture with the coconut aminos and the teaspoon and a half of toasted sesame oil. And again, if you're like low carb, you can just leave out the wonton strips and just eat it like this. Maybe add more cabbage to it. It's great. And I saw someone asking for the instructions. This recipe is actually on my website, thedizzycook.com, so you can access it at any point with full pictures, instructions, everything like that. It's under healthy egg roll bowls. So if you just search for that on Google, healthy egg roll bowl Dizzy Cook, it'll pop up, or you can search on my website directly. Just type in egg roll bowl at the top. There's like up in the upper right corner, there's like an area you can search. You'll see this cabbage start to wilt down. So we're gonna add our little broth mixture.
It already smells delicious.
To this. Good. That's how it should smell. It's going to taste delicious too, I promise. So we're just going to add that. And you're going to turn your heat, keep it on medium if you need to turn it up to medium high a little bit to get it to simmer down, that would be great too. And we're just going to kind of mix that all together till everything is softened and flavorful. You just want to cook it long enough to where that broth isn't so soupy at the bottom. It kind of gets absorbed into the cabbage and everything starts to wilt down and be flavorful. And then you can taste it, see if it needs more salt, more pepper. Two things I'll show you that I really enjoy. Sriracha, let's talk about sriracha really quick. So like your normal like sriracha that we all know with the green top, super famous, right? Has a lot of sulfites in it. So again, people with migraine, you tend to be a little more sensitive to sulfites, especially when it comes to like wine and stuff like that. So there's actually lots of great brands of sriracha out there without sulfites in them. Just encourage you to read labels. So this is actually a really small business who they actually own the plot that sold the peppers to the official sriracha brand a long time ago, but they're called Underwood Ranches. I get this at my local Central Market, but you can order it online as well. All the ingredients are just red jalapeno peppers, distilled vinegar, sugar, garlic, water, and salt and xanthan gum. There's another brand called Fix in there that has rice vinegar in it. If you can tolerate that, super clean Fix. You can find, I have a bottle here too, I'll show you. Fix you can find at Whole Foods most of the time. Anyway, this is what your ingredient list should look like. Just super, super simple. Things you can pronounce. No preservatives, that sort of thing. Again, there's lots of brands out there. You just kind of have to search for them a little bit. I have a lot of recommendations on my website as well. If you can't find these two or want to look for where to order them. Another thing I really love to serve with this is sweet chili sauce. And usually, again, when you're looking for those, you'll look at the ingredient list and there's normally like tons of added ingredients and preservatives in them. My favorite brand is a local brand from Austin, Texas, small company. It's called Pretty Thai. I talk about it a lot on my website if you follow me, but I'm obsessed with their sweet chili sauce. On Amazon, it's like outrageously expensive. So just order it direct from their website. And again, it's just vinegar, cane sugar, kosher salt, garlic, and chilies, and it's absolutely delicious. So highly recommend them. Sometimes they'll give me discounts on Dizzy Cook. Over the holidays, they give me like 20% off. So if you follow me on like Instagram or Facebook, I'll kind of announce that every so often when they give us discounts through their website. And that's always a helpful thing. But again, I think if you order them direct, I think it's like $5 or something like that to order a bottle from their website. So sometimes worth it for our heads. Yes.
Regarding the sweet chili sauce, I just grabbed mine from Trader Joe's. So I'm just curious, tapioca starch, is tapioca starch a no-no?
No, that's okay. It's used as a thickener. So I think Trader Joe's has a decent one, if I remember correctly. I'm not quite sure, but I like spicy. So I'm going to add a little bit of sriracha directly to my egg roll bowl mixture, but you can, always taste it and wait to see how it works for you. For some reason, mine's not coming out. I have a feeling if I do it too much, it's going to explode everywhere. So put that off to the side for a second. Anyway, this is kind of what it should look like. The cabbage is all cooked down and kind of mixed in with your bowl. You can spoon these into any bowls you like. Serve it with a little crispy wonton on the side for dipping. And it top with whatever you want, with sriracha, sweet chili sauce, anything like that. If you want it to be even more hearty, I would add rice, cauliflower rice if you're trying to keep it low carb. Super, super versatile. Again, just taste it, see if it needs adjusting for any salt. I typically go lower on the salt for people, but adjust it to whatever you need. We're going to start. This is all done. So you can actually set this aside until you're ready for dinner. And then we're going to move on to our pudding really quick. So
Wait,
I'm-
Alicia, before you go on, because I think this is a big question. We have a question.
Yes.
Is sweet chili not the same thing as chili sauce? And it's not, right?
No, it's not the same thing as chili sauce. They're totally different. Like sweet chili is usually, I don't know, sometimes you'll find it with like spring rolls, like the Thai spring rolls, and it's kind of got that like, it's kind of sweet and spicy together. That's kind of what I'm referring to when I talk about, like, that's kind of what pretty Thai is. It's more like a sweet and spicy versus a Thai chili sauce, which would be more like sriracha, except we're using like Thai chilies or something like that.
Totally different than chili sauce, which is more like a ketchup, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
exactly.
We have
There
one
are
question.
differences.
We just want to make sure, someone asked, did we use the green onions already? So I'm assuming they
Oh.
didn't throw them in, so they can throw them in now, right? Oh, you
Yes,
didn't use them?
throw them in, or you can, I just put them on top. But yes, go ahead and throw them in. That's a great observation. Thank you for whoever that is.
My husband's doing the cooking. He asked me the same. Alicia, could we do the second raffle now? Is it?
Yes,
is
go
that a good
ahead.
time?
Yeah, this is a good time to stop.
Okay, so while we're getting our dessert ready, we will do the second raffle item, and that is a MSG Dizzy Cook bag that we are going to raffle, which MSG on the front is adorable, and that stands for Migraine Super Goddess. So it's really cute. We are going to give that away to someone who lives in a state where you no longer can, they no longer give bags out, where you have to bring your own bag to, I see, Robin. Robin, I saw your hand. Helen, did you see? So Delaware just went to, they have no plastic bags, no bags anywhere. You have to take your own bags. So Robin, I saw your hand. You will get a cute bag from us, we are going to send you from the Dizzy Cook. So congratulations. And we are on to our dessert.
Yes, so hopefully you guys can see, I've got this set up. We're going to use 3 tablespoons of cornstarch actually to start with a little bit of salt. This recipe is actually from my cookbook that we're going to change it ever so slightly in my cookbook. It's called Saturday Morning Cartoon Pudding. And I actually top it with like cinnamon, like a crunchy cinnamon Chex Mix. So it tastes kind of like vanilla pudding with crunchy cinnamon Chex. And it reminds me of like a super decadent, like, you know, cinnamon toast crunch breakfast that we used to have as kids. But we're going to leave off the Chex Mix today and just make a simple white chocolate pudding. You can also make this into a vanilla pudding as well. I just have a very small, tall pot here, and I'm using 3 tablespoons of cornstarch with a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt for this. So add this to your pan, pan here. Have a whisk ready, and then also 2 cups of milk. So you can use whatever milk replacement you want. I would just recommend using whole milk because it makes it super creamy and has that great texture to it. I would, if you're going to use a substitute, I would use oat milk, like Oatly, which has like a similar texture to it. I would recommend staying away from some of the thinner thinner milk replacements like hemp milk or even nut milks if you can tolerate those. I'm personally triggered by nuts. Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt you because I don't want someone to go awry here. It was 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and how much salt?
1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt.
A 1/4 teaspoon. That's a big 3 tablespoons cornstarch, 1/4 of kosher salt.
quarter
Can you use-
teaspoon of kosher salt.
Quarter teaspoon. Can you use cream? Someone's asking.
I would not recommend cream for this. I think it'll be too thick.
Can you use
But
cream.
lactate? Can you use lactate?
you can use lactate milk. Yeah, that'll work.
Can you use coconut milk or coconut cream?
You can use coconut milk in this as well. Again, it just may change the texture a little bit. So, you know, I haven't tried it with coconut milk. I think it would work. If you want to try that today, go right ahead. I would recommend using like the kind that's most like normal milk, like maybe the kind that comes in a box or something like that versus like the canned kind that you have to mix, or just make sure you shake it really well before using. But again, I've never tested it like that. So I've only really done it with Oatly and whole milk. So I can only guarantee results on those. The other ones I just think might be a little bit thin, but we can try them out and see today. So it's, you know, cooking is whatever you want to make of it. It's, you don't need me to, you know, tell you what you can and can't do. Like a lot of this is just experimenting and finding out what works for you. So go right ahead with that. This is just, you know, how I've tested it and how it's turned out for me. So we'll go ahead and turn our heat on. We're going to do like about medium heat, and we're going to take 2 cups of milk. I think it's 2 cups. Let me double check that. Yes, 2 cups of milk right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit at a time to my pan and whisk that with the cornstarch. And you want to make sure that your cornstarch, the reason why we add just a little bit at a time, you don't want that cornstarch to clump, because if you don't mix all those little lumps and clumps out, you'll get them in your pudding, and it's never a nice surprise when you're eating like really creamy pudding and you have like a lump of cornstarch in it. No, not good. So we're just gonna whisk that really good, and it'll seem super thin at first, but I promise it'll thicken, especially as this starts to cook down. So mine's pretty much mixed in right here. It's getting nice and frothy, so I'm gonna add a little bit more milk to it. Just keep whisking. And we're actually gonna end up whisking this for about 5 minutes over medium heat. So it'll seem like it takes forever, but once you'll start to feel it thicken up a little bit, it'll go by fast. I like to use these little ramekins for storing them in my fridge. And these will take about an hour or 2 to kind of cool down after you're done pouring them in. So this will be ready like for an after dinner treat, something later tonight. And you can top it with whatever toppings you like fresh fruit would be awesome with it, especially like strawberries or blueberries would be great with it too. So we don't have all the milk added. I'm gonna add the rest of my milk since this is kind of nice. I don't feel any more lumps in there or see any more lumps. But again, just keep whisking. And it'll get kind of nice and frothy there. And what we're looking for, you'll see it as we start to cook, but what we're kind of looking for, you don't want this to boil up and over, just kind of like a light simmer to it. You'll see bubbles around the outside as it starts to thicken up the way it's supposed to. And you'll feel it also with your whisk. I'll show you what the texture change is like as well. But the thing about this is, if you overcook or boil this down too much, have your heat too high or something, it'll turn into more of like a custard dish. It won't be completely ruined. It'll just be a thicker custard texture instead of like a vanilla pudding a lighter, gooier vanilla pudding texture. So if you like that kind of texture, like a flan or something like that, go ahead and you can simmer it for a little bit longer. But I'll kind of show you when to stop so it doesn't have that thicker texture as well, if you just want it to be more like vanilla pudding. So we have some time while this is simmering. I'm going to turn my heat up just a little bit. But again, just keep mixing along with me, and I can answer any questions right now while we're doing this as well.
What heat do you have that on right now?
I have it on medium heat.
Okay.
And it just depends on your oven too. I'm using a gas stove. If you find your oven needs a little bit more oomph to it to kind of get it, you want it to be simmering, or to come to a simmer basically, which means not a full boil, which full boil would be like big bubbles that are all throughout. With a simmer, you just have little bubbles kind of on the outside, just very tiny. So you want to play the heat between those two settings just to kind of get it there. But just continue to whisk it.
And you'll feel it thicken up.
Yeah, like I can already feel mine thicken a little bit. I don't know if anyone else can.
Yeah, I can see it thickening.
If you guys can kind of write in or something like that, or chat, raise your hand in. And I should also mention, they're raffling off the MSG bag. I'll show that to you guys in a second. But also like the apron, Kiss the Dizzy Cook aprons I'm wearing, and the bags and everything will be, I have a 15% off coupon for you guys if you've taken the class. So that's just lowercase m, the number 4, and then m. When you go to enter a discount code on the dizzycookshop.com, and that'll give you 15% off through this week if you'd like to purchase any of those. So mine's starting to thicken quite a bit, but I'll show you what it should look like. Oh, it's getting foamy too. The nice thing about using cornstarch, I'll show you guys what I'm using. I'm just using this Argo pure cornstarch here. This is just great for thickening. It's naturally gluten-free. So if you are gluten-free, it's a great dessert.
Alicia, there's one of our like participants is using oat milk, so it seems a little more watery. I'm assuming that would be normal. Would you suggest she uses a little more cornstarch, or no? No,
actually, just stay the course and maybe turn your heat up a little bit. I promise you it will thicken. I've made this in one of my other classes before, and everyone was worried. They're like, mine's not thickening. Just stay a little patient, keep whisking. Again, this is like a full 5 to 7 minutes of whisking to get it to thicken. So just hang in there with me. I promise it'll thicken.
Grab a stool like Alicia did.
Yes, grab your stool, sit down. We got a ways, if anyone wants to tell me about their week, any good Netflix shows we're watching right now, we got some time, so we might as well.
Has anyone seen Bridgerton?
It's what we're currently watching right now.
I just finished it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
We have I think we have 1 or 2 more episodes to go. So
awesome.
Very dramatic. It's like Gossip Girl meets Pride and Prejudice.
For sure.
Great costumes though, right? The costumes.
Great costumes.
Great costumes.
Very good.
Very good.
Eileen's watching HGTV House Hunters, comedians on couches.
Oh,
there
comedians on couches.
What about Alicia, what do you think about, do you watch that the Bake Off, the British Bake Off or whatever?
British Bake Off. My husband actually loves that show. It stresses me out.
It
I feel
does.
like so he like finds it so relaxing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out for these poor people. Like,
Are they gonna finish?
yeah, or like the cake falls over, or like
Oh, yeah.
Paul is like, oh, this is terrible. I just makes me worry for them.
And Nancy, I
So-
watched The Crown and The Queen's Gambit. They were both good too.
Yes. The Crown was an interesting season. So mine is really starting to thicken up quite a bit.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah, so it's also starting to fluff up. I'll take it off the heat really quick so you guys can see.
Two questions for you, Alicia. Carol asked if it would help if you warm the milk a little before starting, or is part of the whisking, is the whisking important?
No, the whisking is actually really important. And also I find that pouring the milk in, into the cornstarch makes it easier to whisk without lumps. If you start with the milk already in the pan and add the cornstarch, I find that it doesn't whisk as well. But you know, if you want to do that, I would just start with a small amount of milk and warm that. And then try to whisk your cornstarch in.
Hey, you're the cook, Alicia, so it's probably, you could probably be tried, but may not be
this way, but yeah.
Someone else asked, okay, so we love your cooking and recipes, but do you have favorite food bloggers or chefs that you follow? Which is a fun question.
Yeah, so I love, like, who inspired me to cook actually is Ina Garten. I love Ina Garten's recipes. Overall they're pretty simple. Sometimes I find she uses like things that aren't really necessary in recipes, so I'll just kind of leave them out. But overall, like, her recipes are really good and simple, and I really love her just the way she is. A few food bloggers I really enjoy. I love, they're not exactly migraine friendly, but I have a friend, she goes by Joyous Apron, and she makes a lot of great Asian recipes and stuff like that. She's a small blogger like me, so I like to support small bloggers. I have another friend, Peter, who has a blog called Who Noms the World, and he makes different recipes from like obscure countries. So if you're
What's
just
that one?
interested,
I'm just trying to put it in the chat. What is Peter's?
Who Noms the World?
How do you spell that?
Like who, it's like Who Runs the World, like Beyonce, but Who Noms, N-O-M.
Okay.
Who Noms the World. Yeah, they're just small bloggers, like along with me, that we all kind of started at the same time and just trying to make it in the world. Of course, everyone knows like the big ones, like Give Me Some Oven and Pinch of Yum and everything. But those kind of people, they have so many readers and people going to their website and everything. If you can find like small bloggers you really enjoy, I highly recommend just giving them a follow, because it means so much more to them and they get really excited about it, myself included. So if you can do that. Mine is thickening up quite a bit. So this is how the kind of texture you want it. You still want it to be a little bit loose. It'll thicken up in your, once it cools as well in the fridge. But again, this is the kind of texture you want it. Just a little bit thick, so it coats your whisk or a spoon or something like that. We're going to add in our white chocolate morsels. If you're not using white chocolate morsels, I would recommend like a tablespoon or two of sugar to this to get it kind of sweet, and also taste it, see if it's to your liking. I don't add any additional sugar with using white chocolate morsels because I find them to be so sweet already. But I'm just going to add those directly into my pot. Turn off the heat. So chocolate, any kind of chocolate, even white chocolate, you just don't want to bring this to a boil or anything like that. The chocolate will separate and get grainy. So Make sure your heat is off when you add it and it stays off. So we're gonna whisk that in. It should be nice and smooth. You see that kind of texture in there that I have. Can everyone see that? Again, if yours hasn't thickened yet, just maybe turn up the heat a little bit more and keep going. Oops, can you hear me? Okay. If yours hasn't thickened yet, turn up the heat a little bit more. Keep going with it until it gets to this thickened texture right here. Okay. Can everyone see that okay? I hope so.
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. I added half a cup of white chocolate chips. And then I used the Ghirardelli brand white chocolate chips, but I do find certain white chocolate chips melt better than others. Especially like I wouldn't recommend like a sugar-free white chocolate chips. They don't melt very well, or they get kind of grainy too. They change the texture. I know some people have to have it for dietary restrictions. So if you must, like, just expect the texture to kind of change with that. But, and you also might be adding it at too high of a heat. But just with these chips like this, they should melt very well and get really smooth in there like this. And then you're also going to add to this a teaspoon and a half of vanilla extract. So I'm just using regular vanilla extract. If you are sensitive to alcohol, there are many brands that use that have alcohol-free vanilla. Trader Joe's is one of them where you can get it. That's a good one, but this is just, I'm using Nielsen Mossy. Whoops, vanilla in here.
Yum.
Whisk that in. And then we're just gonna pour these into our ramekins here. So I'm gonna take you guys, well, yeah, let me move you all back. Just fair warning in case anyone's triggered by dizziness. I'm gonna go a little slow.
Nicole,
Take you back over here.
your eyes.
Okay. And then
So, Alicia, it sounds like the gal using the oat milk is not thickening. Just keep hanging in there.
yes,
Turn up the heat a little bit.
turn up the heat a little bit, keep hanging in there. I'm kind of curious what oat milk you did use, if it was Oatly. Did she use Oatly?
Brittany, if you want to, yep, she did use it.
She used Oatly. Yeah, just keep hanging in there with it. It may take a little bit longer since you did use oat milk to thicken. Is anyone else still having trouble with theirs? This was a common issue with.
We have someone else that used oat milk and said that theirs did thicken. Was it Oatly?
Okay.
Aaron?
This was a common issue when we made this for a different class of mine, and everyone was worried about it thickening, and I promise everyone's did eventually thicken.
It does sound that some others did use Oatly and some used others oat milk, and they did seem to thicken.
Okay,
so
good.
I think
Hang in there with it.
hang in there, Oatly.
So I just poured mine into these ramekins here. And then I'm gonna get a little bit of, you can use cling wrap or press and seal or whatever you have to cover this. You can let it cool for a second or two while we're talking, but whenever you're ready for it, it's cooled just a little bit. I would recommend putting this cling wrap or press and seal or whatever right on top of your ramekins and actually directly on top of the pudding. So this will help it prevent it from getting like that weird like kind of skin layer to it, and also help prevent like a lot of condensation from getting under there as you put it in your fridge.
Alicia, if someone doesn't have ramekins, is there an alternative? What they can use? Can they use a glass? Or
yeah, just
a
use
small bowl?
You could use like little small, let me see, I don't have any in here. If you have like small juice glasses, that would work. Small juice glasses would work. I would also, you could just use a big bowl and just scoop it out as you want. It's not as cute, but it'll work.
Okay, and someone suggested a small Tupperware. That will work too.
Yeah, that'll work too.
Yeah, I was having the same problem, and I just used these little crystal things that my mom has as decorations, and it worked.
Oh, that's cute, Lisa.
So
How long are these puddings good for then? Like how long can you keep them?
I would store them. I keep mine in the fridge for about 5 days.
Okay.
Yeah. They usually don't last that long.
Okay.
For me. Hopefully they don't last long for you. Yeah. But again, they're really great. Like you can just eat them by themselves. I actually found them to be really helpful when I'm nauseous. So, you know, it's something kind of light. I know it seems weird that I'm saying light, but it's something kind of light and that tastes good. Like if you're dealing with a really bad attack or something like that. I ate these a lot during my first trimester of pregnancy. They just go down really easy and they're just kind of nice to eat when you don't feel good. So if you're feeling more adventurous, like add a little bit of strawberries, blackberries, blueberries with a little bit of whipped cream. Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Can't think of what other tips to give you guys. I'm going to spoon these into this makes about four pretty large servings. So I'm going to spoon these into 4 different cups.
You want to put it in the refrigerator and let it set for about an hour, you said?
I would say at least an hour, if not 2 to 3, honestly, but you probably get away with an hour, especially in the back of the fridge. Put it towards the back where it's really, really nice and cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So
is there anything else?
Has everybody made their pudding? Someone also suggested small Pyrex containers. That's a good one too.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's a great idea.
Well,
so I'm just gonna spoon my egg roll bowl.
Oh, okay.
You can add a little bit. So this is kind of what it should look like, you know, with the little chip
that looks
in here for you guys. Again, this stores really well for meal prep.
I can't wait to have mine for dinner.
Yeah, us too. My husband's really excited. This is like one of his favorite dishes. So he loves these little egg roll bowls. But if there's anything else that you guys can think of, like, please just ask me now.
Hey, Alicia.
Happy to answer it. Yes.
I have an idea for people. So I just served them to my family for lunch because we're in California.
Okay.
And I didn't do the egg roll thing, the wrappers. So instead I put it inside of iceberg lettuce cups.
Oh, little wraps. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a great idea.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that would be perfect. And low carb too.
Right.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we have one more raffle to give away. And the third one is Alicia's cookbook. We were going to give that away to, did anyone have a big flop today that really it didn't turn out? Their dessert just did not work. Didn't turn out.
Please let me help you too. Please email me.
That's what Helen and I were sort of thinking. You know, if you had a big flop, then you need her cookbook, right?
Yeah.
So
and I offer private cooking classes too. So please just message me.
So is there anyone on here that just like their dessert didn't work, or even the egg roll in a bowl didn't work? We want to give you a cookbook. signed edition. Everyone is a great chef already. Yes. So Helen, what should we? What else should we? Do you have another thought?
I think we can pick it based on our based on the perseverance of Brittany, persevering with her. I think she's still whisking.
Good
so
idea.
I think Brittany should be our, look at, she's still whisking.
Oh, she
so
did
I think
3 teaspoons.
That is a great
Yes.
idea. Okay,
It needs
Brittany.
to be tablespoons.
Oh, maybe that's the difference.
Yes.
All right. So,
that's what
but
the
those of
difference
you
is.
those of you, I would recommend you go into the dizzycook.com. You can use the 15% off for your apron and grocery store bag. And
Yeah.
Alicia is happy to sign other cookbooks and send them to you.
Yep.
And as I say, I own the cookbook as well. And I have made so many things out of it. It's a fun book to read and lots of really great practical recipes.
Yep.
Yes. And again, the white chocolate pudding is in there. That recipe is in the cookbook. But
what did you call it? You called it something else. What did you call it?
I call it Saturday morning cartoon pudding in the cookbook.
Saturday.
Yeah. So that's the one that has, it'll have Chex Mix on the top. Again, you don't have to add Chex Mix. It's really just easy like this.
You could add granola though, don't you think? You could add granola for the morning or fruit. Or whipped
you know
cream,
what?
or
If you're
whipped cream.
having white chocolate pudding for breakfast in the morning, like
cheers,
that's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Granola would be good. Yeah.
You sound like my 3rd trimester diet.
We're so excited that you all came.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Remember to go to her website, thedizzycook.com. And
Yes.
we want to thank Alicia so much for this fabulous event. It was so much fun. I'm excited to eat my dinner tonight. I want to thank all of you that made the event a lot of fun and interactive. And lastly, I want to thank my volunteers. Without you, we could not have planned and put on this event. And also we're going to be sending out a survey to see how you like the event and to get your feedback on today's event. We're going to be sending 4 people who fill out the survey Miles for Migraine masks as well. So good luck to those of you that get the mask there. I wear mine everywhere. So thank you again, and have a great evening and enjoy your dinner.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Alicia.